Welcome to the first episode of the Brilliant Brand Show. In this first episode, I talk about why I'm doing the show, why I'm focused on helping churches, and then I give you the chance to decide if this show is going to be for you or not. So here we go. Welcome to the Brilliant Brands Show. I'm Justin Keller, former accidental marketer and creative director turned church branding expert and entrepreneur. Each episode, I'm unpacking the strategies that I've used to help churches all across America make their story, their brand visuals, and their marketing so brilliantly clear that it's impossible to ignore them. And now, it's your turn. I hope you're ready to challenge the way you see things, rebel against complacency, comfort, and conformity, and find your untold brilliance. Now, let the show begin. Welcome to the Brilliant Brand Show. I'm Justin Keller, your host, and I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for finding the show, and then thank you for giving it a listen and taking the time to do that. I'm really, really excited about this new show that I'm making for churches only. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal to some of you, but for me, this has been a really big decision that I've wrestled with for the past few years. So at the time that we're recording this, I'm just a couple months away from our company, Circle 50 Creative, turning 5 years old. And at 5, I feel like we're finally ready to launch. I know that seems a little odd, but it's so true. I just feel like the last 5 years have been practice. They've been a testing ground and a process of really just finding our untold brilliance and my untold brilliance. And so these past 5 years are, I think, what have been preparing me to really start to see things differently and then to really focus on how I can help churches rebel against these three things: complacency, comfort, and conformity. Especially when it comes to the way that we choose to market and message and communicate for our churches. I just know that if we can push past those things and rebel against complacency, comfort, and conformity, it's what's going to help us push past the status quo and ultimately help our churches make the greatest impact possible. I've got to tell you, I'm just fired up about the concept of the show and the things and the content that we're going to bring to you. My goal for this show is it's a no fluff approach, okay? And so it's just going to be raw. It's going to be unfiltered and just really challenge the way that you think and see what it takes to build a brand inside of the church. Now, this show is definitely not a new idea at all. I've been sitting on this podcast for at least a couple of years. We even recorded a couple episodes and produced a show opener and almost launched it before. I think that was probably a couple of years ago now. And then again, last fall, we were dabbling with a show format that was speaking to both churches and businesses and entrepreneurs. And I guess when we started in 2017, I just made a decision and said, let's just focus on helping churches. I need this to be a show for churches, and I want to pack it with a ton of value, and I'm ready. I know that we're ready to help them think through things different and give them things that they can put into place immediately to improve the way that they're communicating, marketing, and branding their churches. And so finally, this is the show that I've been waiting to do. I'm excited about it and really excited to focus on helping you, those of you who are at churches, on staff at churches doing ministry. My goal and my promise to you is to hold nothing back when it comes to challenging you and your church and what you're doing, and really help you do what it takes to get your message right, get your marketing right, and build a brilliant brand. All right, so first, before you invest a ton of time listening to any other episodes, what I thought I would do is save you some time by letting you know who this show is not going to be for. I thought that would help us identify if this is for you or not. That way, hopefully, maybe you've only wasted a couple minutes into this episode, and I'm sure you've probably wasted more time on worse things. So here it goes. Here's the 5 reasons that this show might not be for you. All right, so this show is not for the church that first thinks you have it all figured out. Look, I get that you have a talented team. I know your graphics probably look great. That's fine. You've got a good-looking website, and I bet you can come up with cool stuff that other churches copy. That's cool. But you will not like me if you think that is all that matters, and you think that you don't have any room to grow, or you're not willing to admit that maybe you're getting it wrong even in some of those areas, even if other churches are copying you. Okay, so number 2, it's not for the church that thinks words like branding and marketing are dirty words. I'm convinced that's selfish, possibly even arrogant for us to just wait for people to come to us as a church. If you have a great purpose, you should market it, connect it to those who need it. That's it. So you won't like me if you don't see branding and marketing as that vehicle to do that. And then third, this is definitely not for the church that thinks every decision needs to be backed up by a scripture. This show is all about no fluff, practical things that you can do better to engage the people in your church and the people in your city. And so I'm really not worried about your spiritual, being a spiritual inspirational source for you. Okay. So you're not going to like me if you don't like thinking practical and you need to over spiritualize everything. We're not going to get along if that's what you need. And then the last part, or I guess number 4 would be if you're the church that thinks that you should only learn from other churches. Look, I know people say that the church should be the most creative, but newsflash, the reality is we're not. And so I'm actually going to use big brand examples from the business world and then help you see how that can be tailored for your church. So you're not going to like me if you don't think that we should have a business mindset in ministry. And then this is the last thing, the 5th thing. You won't like me if you're the church that thinks it won't work for you. This one's really simple for me. You're never going to know unless you try. So you're not going to like me if you're not willing to put in the work, challenge your thinking and the thinking of your team, and be willing to try these things, be willing to get it wrong, make adjustments, and then keep challenging yourself to get it right. But let me tell you who this show is for. This show is for the church that says, I want to be challenged. I want to be more effective with our marketing and branding. And this is for the church that's willing to implement new ideas, even if it goes against what you've always done. This show is also for the church that knows it is spiritual to be practical. And this show is for the church that isn't enamored over what everyone else is doing, and instead they're more focused on finding their untold brilliance and making the impact that God uniquely wired them to make. This podcast is actually really personal for me. I'm convinced it's for at least one person out there, one person who needs someone in their corner giving them permission to just think different. That's what I really wished I would have had, in my life at many times when I felt like I didn't quite fit in to the church sometimes. I just wished I would have had that person in the corner saying it's okay to think different. It's okay to not follow and copy what everybody else is doing and really fight for that unique brilliance that you have. And so that's who this show's for. And so for that one, if that's just one person, this is worth putting out this content. And if you are that one, it would mean a ton. Even if it's just one, go and subscribe on iTunes. And if you think there's someone else that might need this, it would also mean a lot if you'd go ahead and share this with your network. You can actually go to brilliantbrands.com/share, and you can grab an image to share on your social media if that's something that you want to do. So anyway, if you're still with me, let's keep on going and just go right into episode 2. In episode 2, what I'm going to do is use my personal story of finding my untold brilliance to help you understand why this show matters so much to me. And then I'm going to explain our show tagline a little bit. So, all right. Thanks for joining me on the first episode of the Brilliant Brands Show for churches and giving me some of your time today. I'd love to take your questions, comments, or feedbacks from today's show. So just go ahead and shoot me an email directly, justin@justinkeller.com, or you can mention me on social media using @KellerThinks. Go ahead, head over to iTunes, subscribe, and rate the show, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. The Brilliant Brand Show is powered by Circle 50 Creative. You can learn more about how we help ministries solve critical ministry moments with the right message, brand visuals, and strategies at circle50.com.